All right, good evening, everyone. This is the Planning Board meeting of November 18th, 2020, 7 o'clock, and this is at the Carver Middle/High School auditorium. If you could please stand, it says the public is invited to attend. Social distancing practices are in effect. The proceedings will be videotaped and rebroadcast by Area 58 TV. So if you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a couple of sign permits to start the evening off. See, Christine Colstring, it's Bright Beginnings Early Learning Center, which is on 5 Green Street, map 16, lot 11. If you would please come up, and we have a special table and chair for you and microphone right here. So good evening.
Good evening.
Nice to have you here tonight.
So, I believe you have a copy of the logo that was with the permit, but this is just in case you don't have it in front of you.
Speak into the microphone.
Yeah. You can pull it up too closer to your head.
So this is just a mock-up of the sign. It's just the logo with the phone number underneath it, and it's the same size and the same placement position where the old sign for the VFW was. So that's about it.
Oh, so this is going to be in the building where the VFW was at
Yes.
one time, and it's been all rebuilt. And
Yes.
so, yeah, could you tell us about the business? Are you just doing the sign, or do you own the business
Well,
also?
I own a business as well. It's going to be a daycare. It's been a long time coming, but she's ready to come out and inspect. I got that email today actually. So we're really close. But it's going to be a daycare. We've renovated it from the bottom up, and I'm excited.
Yeah, the property looks greatly improved.
Thank you.
It's very nice, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Are there any questions by any of the planning board members?
Does this encompass just preschool, or is it kindergarten?
It's 2 months to age 8. So,
Do you have
infants.
another business or similar business, or is this the first?
No, it's the first of future, yes. I've worked in the field for many years, but it's my first time in the management seat.
And if you could talk about this, Jim?
Sure. So this is located in the village zoning district. There's a maximum of 8 square feet for signage in the district, and then no more than 2 signs. So what they have, the proposed sign is 6 square feet, so that meets the requirement.
Okay.
For that particular district.
All right. And that's going to go right out in front of the building?
Yep, in that
Lucky.
flower bed there,
Oh,
where
okay.
right where it was.
All right. All right. Hey, Kevin.
So much to read, I fell asleep. Now, is Historic District permission required?
In this case, it shows, there's a note on the application that the Historic District Commission is okay with signs.
Yes, I sat with them last month.
Well, I don't know. What is
So just to catch up, we're on the first of the sign permits. This is Christine, and
All of them, yeah. My grandfather was one of 10 boys, so
Nice.
I am related to all of them, yes.
so anyway, this is where the old VFW place used to be, and so now they're gonna do a daycare center there. And they're putting up a sign in front of the building, and it meets all the requirements, all right? Any other questions by any of the board members? Seeing none, do you have anything additional to say, Jim?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, so seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the sign permit for Christine Coldstring on 5 Green Street.
Motion to approve? I would like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, so, yeah, okay, because we don't have anybody here tonight, so, so we had a motion to approve by Connie Shea and a second by Ellen Sedillo. So, any further discussion? Seeing none,
Roll call.
those in favor, we're gonna have to do this by roll call. So why don't we start?
Cornelius Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Ellen Sodillo says aye.
All right, so it's unanimous. So thanks and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Do we have anything to sign for this tonight, or?
We do.
Okay.
So,
Oh, yeah, if you could give that to me too, please, yeah. Thank you.
Have you start with the, bring it back then.
Has everybody in the audience signed the sign-in sheet? Have you-
Bring that up, please?
Oh, you have one there? All right, yeah, if you could bring it up, please. Thank you.
All right. You might be the-
What, you're gonna do the next one?
Mahana?
The next one
Mahana?
is
Mahana?
Samantha Mahana, 66 Main Street, Unit 4.
I was just last minute after coming
Let's see, who's it?
Amaha Center?
in. Yes, yeah.
So that's you, okay. Let's, we do. Before we do that, let me, do we have something, okay, so this is what we have to sign here, okay. May as well, everybody, while we're here. We get that piece of business, done with. Okay,
Do we know what this business is?
what's this?
What this,
Yoga.
Yeah, we'll discuss that. We haven't gotten into it. We do have the lady before us, but we'll just sign this and get this done.
Second, first one.
Thank you. All right, so now the second sign permit we have tonight is Samantha Mahana. It's OM, the Om Namaha Center, 66 Main Street, Unit 4, which is map 71, lot 9. So good evening. So Jim, have you had a chance to look at this, to review this?
Yes, I did. So, this is the same location where the Mexican restaurant is, on Main Street. And it's zoned general business, which allows 16 square feet of signage per business max. And so the proposed signs come out to about 14.4 square feet.
Okay,
Total of the signs.
so would you like to speak about it, please? And even tell us about your business too, if
It's
you'd
not my
like.
business.
Oh, you're just doing the sign?
I'm making the sign, yeah.
All right.
Record sign of Rama Kingston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she just asked me last minute to come in because she couldn't make it.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know anything about the business, other than it's yoga.
but you probably want to put a plug in for the right name, right? It's You want to pronounce it?
I don't know how to pronounce it,
Oh.
honestly.
I think it's,
Om Namaha.
Well, the name is Mahana, but the business name, I think the way you would say it properly would be Om Namaha. Om
Om
Namaha.
Namaha.
That's it. Probably be a good idea if she came in so everybody could hear it clearly.
I think she had to go out of town.
Yeah.
But I think it's Om Namaha, does that look like it?
Looks like it to me.
Jim, did you hear exactly what it was when you came here?
No, they only came into the permitting desk, so I never really a chance to speak with them.
Probably have some cool translation.
So, Jim, this is beside the where the Mexican restaurant is now?
Yes.
Oh, okay, all right. All right, any questions by any of the board members?
I just see that only one sign is listed on the application, but
Great background. So you're just doing the one side over the door?
Correct, yeah. Just
Entrance.
like everyone else
So
has
it's
there.
just one, yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Just
then the
one.
other piece of the sign is the name on the door.
the
so-
door lettering.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, I don't know, okay, so you counted that into the square footage too?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So we're still under the square footage between the two?
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a small sign on the door.
We might want to add something to the application if we need to make sure that both signs are in compliance.
Is that how it works in Carver, just for future reference?
It-
Window
the sign-
graphics, door graphics are part of it?
Right, so door
They are.
graphics are another quote-unquote sign.
Sign, okay.
Yeah.
Some, because a lot of towns don't, but Carver does.
We do.
Okay, good to know.
So we could just add to the description and door sign, I guess, whatever. All right. All right, any other questions by the board members? Seeing none, we'll entertain a motion to approve the sign.
I'll make a motion to approve the sign for Om Namaha Center.
I'll second that motion.
So, okay, so we had Kevin Robinson make the motion, we had Connie Shea second it, and any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Start with Mr. Shea.
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Bruce Mackey says aye.
Almost with your love, says that.
Okay, so that was unanimous. All right, well,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Good night, people.
Thank you.
And then we have something to sign.
Yep.
Oh, start with Ellen,
Sure.
okay.
All state coming back again.
Do you want to sign one of these two, just a sign-in sheet, but just so when somebody does the notes, they know the planning board members that were here. All right. There you go. All right, now we have a public hearing. I don't know if, Mr. Shea, did you sign?
I didn't.
Sign-in sheet? Okay. Let me read the public hearing notice. Okay. So we have a public hearing notice in accordance with the provisions of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw. The Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on November 18th, 2020 at 7 p.m. at the Carver Middle/High School Auditorium on the application of Heather Dudko requesting a special permit pursuant to sections 3570 and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 96 North Main Street, Unit 4 in Carver, Mass. Assessors Map 18, Lot 3-B-R, to exceed the signage dimensional requirements and the number of signs in the Village Business District. Any person interested and wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the Planning Department and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair, and it was published in the Carver Reporter, published dates of October 30th and November 6th of 2020. Yeah, would you like to speak about this first, Jim?
Sure. I remember what, I believe it was back in October you
Last
reported.
month, yes, yeah.
And so, the amount of signage that was being requested exceeded, what was allowed in the village district. One other thing I did find out is that the, tenant sign at the entrance, this sign right here, that was, under a separate, special permit, by the property owner. So, without counting that sign at all, they're basically looking for 19 square feet of signage for the property.
Okay, which is over.
Which is over the 8 square feet in the village district.
Okay, so that's why we're here with this public hearing for this, okay. All right, would you like to speak about the signs?
This is my second meeting in Town Hall. I'm very
And
pleased
you're
to be here.
Heather?
I am.
Okay, yeah, okay.
As Jim said, I was here last month and we discussed the signage and determined that we didn't need to apply for the special permit. So the tenant panel, the EO1, the tenant panel will be covered under the special permit in place for that freestanding structure, is what I'm hearing Jim say. So the three signs in question would be the non-illuminated wall sign, the non-illuminated wall plaque next to the door, and then the window graphics.
Okay.
So three signs totaling 19 square foot.
Are you putting graphics in both windows?
Yes, yeah, and we did count them.
And you counted them
Mm-hmm.
in the total?
Correct,
Right, so I think your wall sign is 11 square feet.
correct.
And then the placard to the left of the door has the business hours on it, and contact information, that's what, 3 square
Great,
feet?
correct.
And then the window stenciling totals roughly about 5
Five,
square feet,
All
right? Okay.
right, any questions by the board members?
I just had a question. On the outside, where you're gonna go between Cornerstone and Century 21 and Carver Jewelers, you're not exceeding, that's just gonna be the size, right? Is the dimensions on my paper, is that just so you can see it? Or is it supposed to be expanding?
I'm not quite sure what you're referring to.
This.
Oh, the freestanding sign?
Yeah, the freestanding sign.
Yeah.
That it's just going in a
Correct, that's-
designated spot.
correct.
And that,
Yeah.
those are the measurements, not gonna cut into the next signs, right?
No, that will fit, the panel will fit right within the cabinet, the
Okay.
blank cabinet that's there now.
All right, that's it. I just wasn't sure if that was gonna extend.
No,
Are you-
it'll fit right in the cabinet.
Sorry. Are you consolidating both window signs into one window?
Well, I did consolidate the square footage, but it will be in two windows.
Okay, because it's not listed on the, as a separate
Right, so
sign.
the see how it's noted as the NO2 below the window, below the swoosh down here, the NO2 sign. I did count the square footage of both, so I don't know if that needs to, if you want to determine that to be
It's two separate
two separate,
signs.
so we'd have to do 2.5 and 2.5.
Oh, but, because on the application, it does show you counted as 5 square feet, and I think because it's a window sign, treat it as one window sign, even though you have the graphic plus the name of the business there. But,
You could do like an
But
NO2A,
the-
NO2, and then
but the special permit, the board can approve this as part of the special permit. If there's no limitation there.
Is that all right, Connie?
No, that's fine.
Did that
with me.
answer
Yeah,
your
no,
question?
I just didn't, I noticed that there were 4 signs.
Sure, yeah.
Only 3 of them were listed.
All right, any other questions by board members? Well, seeing none, this is a public hearing. Is there anybody out in the audience that would like to speak? Seeing no one, first thing we have to do, this is a public hearing, so the first thing, if there's nobody here to speak about this in the audience, we'll like to have a motion to close the public hearing.
We'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Connie Shea made the motion, Kevin Robinson second. Further discussion? Seeing none, let's do a roll call vote again.
Cornelius Shea says aye.
Kevin Robinson says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye. All right, so after we close the public hearing, and this is, just to, what's that? Oh, okay. Do we, okay. Oh, yeah, does he just replace somebody if we don't have the fourth, or he can
Right, so he would sit in for, Mr. Gasky.
Oh, that's right. John isn't here. So, Mr. Dion, you have your first vote.
Mr. Dion says aye.
So, Mr. Dion says aye. All right. So, we have closed the public hearing, and now entertain a motion to approve the application of Heather Dudko for this requesting a special sign permit, 96 North Main Street.
I'll make a motion
I'll second it.
to
Okay.
accept Heather Dudko's application for the signs for Allstate at, let's get the address right, 96 North Main Street.
All right, thank you. All right, so then Kevin Robinson made the motion, Connie Shea second. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote again. So we'll start all the way down to the end of the table.
Mr. Dion says aye.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Mr. Robinson says aye.
Mr. Mackey says aye.
Ellen Sedillo says aye.
All right. So.
Thank you.
You won't have to come back a third time.
Oh, you never
That's-
know,
that's
maybe
it.
we'll have something else.
Well, thank you. And so we have some papers to sign here tonight? May as well
The
get
same,
that.
I'll just pass this thing around.
All right. All right, so that's that. Thank you. All right, so,
Mr. Chairman, I do want to say, we do have a public hearing quorum. Mr. Gasky, our regular member, is absent tonight, but Mr. Dion is our associate member, and he can sit on the public hearing.
all right, thank you for that information. All right, so next on the, we have 2 public hearings. We've done one. Next public hearing is on the application of Carver. Oh, okay, let me just read the public hearing notice. Okay, so next public hearing is in accordance with the provision of the Town of Carver zoning bylaw. The Carver Planning Board will hold a public hearing on November 18th at 7 p.m. at the Carver Middle High School auditorium on the application of Carver LLC requesting a special permit and site plan review pursuant to sections 2230, 3100, 3580, and 5300 of the Carver zoning bylaw located at 104 Tremont Street, Assessors Map 123, Lot 13 in Carver, Mass. To allow the construction of a 7.5 megawatt DC solar photovoltaic system with 3 array areas to be installed on land adjacent to active cranberry bogs at the Federal Furnace Cranberry Company property in a residential/agricultural district. Any persons interested and wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place designated. A copy of the plan is on file at the Planning Department and may be reviewed during normal business hours. Carver Planning Board, Bruce Mackey, Chair, and the published dates October 23rd and October 30th of 2020. So, yes, please, if, I don't know if we have any other chairs, I guess. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. May I start?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, just, could you give us your name, please?
Yeah.
And
Thanks for having me, having us here this evening. My name is Annie Jung from Sincarfa. In the room, I have Rachel Clare from the company as well. On the line we should have our engineer, Graham Dukowski from Sincarfa as well. We also have Rob Bukowski representing Wood tonight, who can speak more about the site plan later.
okay.
I'll give you a little introduction to the company and the project, and then I'll hand it over to Rob to speak more in depth about the site plan. Okay. Sincarfa is a long-term owner and operator of solar projects in the U.S. We have a lot of projects all over the country, but we have a pretty big portfolio here in Massachusetts. We've developed around 100 megawatts of solar projects in Massachusetts. That's about 20 projects the size of the project that we're proposing here today. So I want to reiterate the fact that we are a long-term owner and operator, which means that upon completion of the project, we like to keep them in-house and operate them ourselves. If you have any problems or questions down the line, 10, 15 years down the line, we'll be around to answer them. That also means that we have a vested interest in building these properly to code, because obviously as the owner and operator, we don't want any problems down the line. Just to give you a little background on the project itself, we started this whole process around a little over 2 years ago, and it's taken a long time to get here, mainly because of hiccups with the utility. It's just been a long process, unfortunately, but I'm really happy to say that we're here finally. We're at a good point with the utility where we can move on with permitting. This is a solar facility. Obviously, it generates electricity that's clean, greenhouse gas emissions free. We also have batteries along with the solar arrays. Hopefully, when it's operational, we can produce electricity that's clean during peak hours. That will reduce the need for greenhouse gas emissions power plants or peak power plants that use natural gas. So again, we're really excited to be here, to be working with you all to move this project forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Rob Bukowski. I'm a civil engineer and consultant for Sincarfa on this. So we prepared the special permit application and supporting documents along with the drawings that you've probably seen in front of you. So quick overview, in addition to what Annie said, the total area that the project covers is about 30 acres of the 781 acre site, and it is in 3 different areas, as you can see here. Southern piece here. This part of the proposed development is actually actively being mined, is buried right now. And then the other two, the one to the north, immediately north here, is just an open piece of land, it's basically grass, like a meadow type condition now, it's being drained road. And then the easternmost piece is sort of similar. There is a small area here, where the tree planting is done, but other than that, there's really not much of, big clearing there, it's going to be up to me. We had a meeting with Jim and some of the other town staff a couple weeks ago, and one of the main things that came up, there is battery storage component to this, so that was one of the concerns that the fire department had. And there was a memo, I think, that was sent to you, Jim, that just described basically how these battery storage units work. The other issue that came up was access. So the fire department wanted to make sure that there's a minimum of 12-foot access roads. And as you can see from here, being an active primary zone, there's access roads all around the site. So each one of these areas actually is surrounded by access roads. So the plan is to just use those existing roads. You don't have to construct new ones. At any locations where the existing roads are less than 12 feet wide, those will be shorter. There's enough room in the flat area so it can be used. The other thing that the fire department requested is inside the fence line. So if there ever an incident and the fire department had to get inside the fence, they wanted to make sure we had a minimum of 12 feet from the fence to the nearest fence. So that's been provided. In fact, I think we have close to 20 feet from most areas. The mounting for these, the foundations will actually be ground screws. So it's about a 3-inch diameter post that gets advanced in the ground, basically gets augered into the ground. There's a couple ways to do this. You can use either ground tiles or use ground screws. And the reason the ground screws are proposed here is because the soil is so sandy and it can be a little bit loose. So then once the screws go in, they build the racking on top of that, and then the modules get put on top of those.
Are those aluminum ground screws?
They're steel.
They're steel,
Yeah,
okay.
they are, yeah. And then, the racking, I think, can be probably a combination, sometimes aluminum, sometimes steel. There'll be a fence surrounding each one of these, so 3, completely surrounded fence, and that's part of, not only for security, but the electric code requires that these all be fenced in completely. There will be gates, and the gates will be wide enough so that emergency vehicles can access into them if needed. We did apply for a wetlands notice of intent, and that hearing was a couple weeks ago, and that was approved by the Conservation Commission. That was back on the 4th, because obviously there's quite a bit of work that's proposed within the buffer zone here. For stormwater management, there's really a pretty minimal increase in impervious areas. In fact, it's only about 2,700 square feet, and that consists of all the individual poles that I mentioned, the 3-inch diameter poles, as well as equipment pads. So there's an equipment pad in each area, and on that equipment pad will be located a transformer. Then the electrical connection will go from the transformer and then up to the poles that gets fed back into the grid. So we looked at each of these 3 areas individually for stormwater, and there's really no increase at all. The main reason because there's so little impervious, and each of these posts is really disconnected, so it's not at all like a typical development where you may see someone go in and completely change the ground cover surface or pave an area or anything like that. And this soil is very sandy, which really promotes infiltration in stormwater. The total disturbance that includes the tree clearing, the equipment pads, and those posts is just over an acre. So pretty minimal considering the 30-acre size of the actual project.
Okay. All right, any questions by?
I do. I have several questions, but you did almost answer one of them. So first of all, this is on the land that's owned by Federal Furnace Cranberry Company?
That's correct.
Okay, so they're obviously all right with it. And then the next question I have is, it says that this agreement would provide savings on utility bills over the 20-year lifespan of the solar project. Is the help towards the utilities, is it going to be just the town, or is it going to be available to our residents?
It would be be available to the residents.
All right, so given that we go forward with this, how are residents going to be able to apply for, what their town is being used for?
Yeah, so when the project gets approved by the utility and by the DOEO, which is the Energy Commission of the state, we'll start actively, or even before that, we'll start actively recruiting subscribers.
Okay.
And we can obviously make sure we let the town know that, so people can sign up.
All right, good. So Jim, you got that right? That would be something that they would work with you, and would it have to go through you, or how would you set that up though?
Normally, what we could do is we can send out a notice through the town.
Okay.
And then if people see that and want to sign up, then they can contact us, and we would put the request through to the director of our community solar program.
Okay. The other question I have is, I know you're doing very little clearing, but in the past, I know that we've set up a program or a fund in which, if there's any clearing done, that we like to get a donation or a voluntary donation towards, getting trees being restored in that situation. I don't know if we have a percentage or something as far as that's concerned, but I know there's been projects before that have made, donations as far as that's concerned, and we did establish that. So when we do have to cut a tree down, or have to cut any trees down, that we can replace them, but, growing them somewhere else.
I don't know if you're aware of that. I think I said one of the decisions.
Yes.
For regular project.
Yeah, Stephen, the last planner, I mean, it's nothing that we have in our bylaws, but I guess on our site visit, I guess we have to go out and take a look and see what's being done and what's being cut, and if it's substantial. And then what we have done in past projects, in some of the projects, we've asked if the developer could make a donation to a tree fund that we could use all over town.
That's exactly what I'm
But
talking
yes, but it's
And I
not,
know where
it's
there's
not a
only an acre.
requirement, it's just a voluntary.
I do understand,
Yeah.
and I want to make
But
that
we'll
clear.
probably, if we're gonna have to schedule a site walk for this, so then we'll kind of take a look and see what's being taken down, and we'll have more thoughts on it then, but yeah, that is something that has been done with some projects in the past, yeah, not all, but some.
And then I have one last question. We have had other companies come before us to do this, and especially with the battery storage. Our fire department would be looking for, some help as far as training is concerned. So, I would want you to work with the chief, and I would want you to, make those funds available to him to, so he can train our firefighters in the event that there was any fire that had to be, above and beyond what would happen.
Yeah. In that little, in the two-pager that I gave you earlier, there's an energy storage memo, and it outlines, on a very high level, what we would do with the facility, and part of our construction or post-construction process is to have a training session with the fire department and their operator, so that they can access the site A and be able to have access to the containers which have the batteries in them, just in case of emergency.
I think I've asked enough questions. I'm sure my gentleman to my right might have some. So.
I do have a couple questions. Under your application here, under section 3130B, C, it says, no new water provisions or fire protection measures are proposed for the property as a result of this project, but then you just handed us a 2-sheet paper that has a fire suppression system in it, so I think that needs to be clarified.
Yeah, so when we looked through the site plan review applications, we looked at that as though were new hydrants being proposed. So there's no new water service for this, because The array doesn't require water, and there's no new hydrants. So the battery storage units will be independent, and they're self-contained. So the fire suppression system within that, basically, it's almost like a C-type container, will be completely contained and individual within each one of those.
Yeah, that still has to be put in.
That's
It
fine.
is a
Yeah,
fire suppression system. so
We
energy
can add
use-
some information on
I
that.
expect it's a chemical suppression system.
I believe it is.
Yeah, so that would bring us over to the hazardous materials section where it says no hazardous materials will be stored, used, or generated by the project, but it says hazardous materials, if utilized within the panels, transformers, or batteries, must require impervious containment areas capable of controlling any release to the environment and prevent potential contamination to the groundwater. And your response to that was no hazardous materials will be used, stored, or generated by the project. Now, I think we're all familiar with the fact that hazardous materials are used in both battery storage, solar, and fire suppression systems. So I think that will need to be addressed also.
So and I'm not an expert on what the fire suppression material is, but my understanding is it is a self-contained impervious container. So if there were ever a leak of the batteries themselves, or if there were a fire and that suppression system engaged, that everything would be contained within that container.
Sure, I think I got some people on the Zoom link on the, over here. Doing well, thank you.
I can answer the question regarding the fire suppression system. So it's a dry fire suppression agent, FM200 to be exact. And if you have any further questions on the material, we can most certainly submit the data sheet for review.
I think we'll need the data on that because
Yeah.
we'll need to know what the chemicals involved in this are. We'll also need to, I would expect specs on the battery containers to show that they are capable of handling any volume released. And then I have one final question here. I don't see the lease agreement in regards to the property. It just lists an amendment to the lease agreement in attachment E.
The amendment should have the lease itself attached, but if it's not, we can certainly submit that.
Yeah,
as a
it's
follow-up.
not, it's just
Okay.
the second amendment to lease option agreement is
Okay.
listed, but there's no other information there. Are there any residential structures on the property within 200 feet of? I know you're leasing the property, so.
This plan was also in response to one of the comments we were talking about the guidance community. The idea is to show, how isolated the array was compared to some of these others. We want to know, so we know where the residents involved.
Who's Walter Morrison, who's one of the trustees of Federal Fund.
Walter Morrison, okay, we'll speak
Otherwise
next,
known
okay.
as Maury.
They are more than 200 feet away. And they're up in this corner, up in here, one on, both on the right-hand side of that car road that goes through Federal Furnace, near the end, if you get up to the last bar up in here, but they're right back up in here. And they are more than 200 feet away. That's what it is.
Well, we'll take when we do a site walk, we'll take a look at that. That's one of the things we do. I mean, I didn't give you the procedure, this is something new to to some of the new board members, but generally on our first hearing, we hear the project, and if we have any questions, we ask those questions, and then maybe some material will be brought to us to answer, like you asked about the battery storage and the containers and the fire suppression. And that may, come, whatever questions we have, and there aren't any answers for tonight, we'll have a second meeting. But generally, what we like to do is have this initial meeting first. We'll schedule a time for a site walk so we can walk the property, so we can actually see if screening is needed or not. And then we'll look at the areas where trees may have to be cut down, and we'll have we'll take a look where each solar field is so that we can determine what the work is, the extent of the work, and if there are any neighbors nearby. So, and then we'll come back with our next meeting and hopefully have all our questions answered, and then we'll, talk about screening and whatever, if that needs to be done. Now, I was reading through all the information given to us here, and it seemed like the screening wasn't necessary, because a lot of times screening isn't necessary because you have a lot of natural vegetation. So that's, we'll take a look. But if something's needed, we'll. Yeah.
Are you leasing the property?
I have a quick question.
I don't know where that falls under the screening requirement.
Okay.
Technically, all owners know the question.
Well, generally, it's just private other people that aren't associated with the property. It's not the landowner themselves, I mean, if the landowner lived on the property and his house was in the middle of all these solar arrays, it would be up to him to put screening or fencing around it.
Mr.
But-
Chair,
Or
John
maybe,
Gasky.
Tom, you wanted to ask if you've reached out to the residents in those two places.
The two residents are part of the property. The two residents are forming the work of the property, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's on the property, yeah. On the property. Never mind that, I think it's solely
John Gasky is one of the planning board members, is on the phone with us, and he has a question to ask.
John Gasky, go ahead.
So as far as the location of the solar arrays with regards to area businesses, is there any interference or will it affect any of the other local businesses that are already in operation?
I wouldn't think so. All around are mostly cranberry bogs as well, and when you're driving down Palmont Street, you really can't see the arrays at all. I mean,
Well, there's, I got some information about a different solar array that turned out to affect a local business after going in, and they're having to sell their business. So it's relocate their business. So just curious to know if this is going to have a similar effect.
what was the business that needed to be relocated?
Did you hear the question, John?
Yeah, what was the business that had to be relocated? I haven't heard anything about that.
This was had to do with helipad.
The business is still there.
He wasn't relocated.
That
Well,
business wasn't relocated.
There's some issues going on with it, from my understanding.
Well, I mean, this is another subject, but that was a solar field that came to us, and all the concerns as far as I believe anyway, all the concerns of the owner were addressed, and the plans were actually changed to accommodate the helicopter business. And, we gave him all the opportunity in the world to, I mean, they came to the hearing and, they had a consultant and they agreed to, they said, the consultant told us what he wanted done and that's what the applicant did. So, I haven't heard that he's gonna have to move the business, but I mean, we can only do what we're asked to do, the planning board, so.
Right, I understand, that's why I was just checking, all I'm doing is just checking to see if there were any other area businesses that might be affected by this.
Yeah, that's quite an unusual thing that happened there, but generally, all these solar fields that are amongst the cranberry bogs, they're isolated, and the only people that it would affect is the cranberry bog owners themselves, and of course, they're the ones that are renting out the land, so they have to make special provisions for anything that they need to do out there. But
Question about the airport. Where's the airport located in relation to what we see there?
I'm not,
Oh, asking the applicant.
oh,
I'm not exactly sure where it would be, but we did have to submit a notice to the FAA, and that's being processed right now. And
Okay.
yeah, and we don't expect any problems with that.
Yeah, either way, some of the airport is down affected by the airport.
So it must be north of this, of what's shown there, okay, yeah. So obviously the height isn't going to affect any of the airplanes, and as were the concerns of the people with the helicopter pad, they were concerned about crashes, and if their emergency crash, emergency crash, landings, and whether they'd be electrified, and so in the helicopter pad we provided a 90-foot strip so that the helicopters wouldn't have to fly over the solar panels.
Well, they actually relocated some of those panels.
Yes, they did, yeah, and removed some, and actually removed one side of the solar panel field. So they actually did more than they were asked to do. But anyway, so that's good anyway, so that it's being reviewed by the FAA. So we won't run into this problem again, because that was the question with the other project, was it was just a small helicopter pad, and whether it was FAA under their supervision or not, and it wasn't, as far as we could determine. But when you have an airport, I would think that that's a different thing, with airplanes flying in and out all day long.
And last question for me, I'm sorry, I hope I'm not interrupting. This is a 781 acre property, is that correct? Yep. Okay.
All right, any other questions by planning board members? How about our remote member is John? Do you have anything else, John?
no further questions.
Okay. Ellen, you good? All right, so, we'll do two things here, to continue. First is, we'll schedule a time for a site visit. And then we'll, a time to continue the hearing. Oh, before I even do that, let's go on to, is there anybody, since this is a public hearing, is there anybody out in the audience that has any comments? All right, seeing nobody coming forward, I'm going to leave the meeting open until our next one. After we do our site visit, then close the hearing for the public, because we'll still allow the public comment for our next meeting. So, when can we do a site visit to this property? And I know that the board has kind of changed. We had some people that were available during the daytime, but, you know, I mean, we do have a couple of retired people here, and we have some hardworking people on the other end, so, well, when would be a good time for everybody? Generally, what we tried to do, you know, we're getting, the days are dark at the end of the day, so it would be good to do it like first thing in the morning, or I don't know if people couldn't get away from work, maybe it would be something that we could do on a Saturday. I don't know if that's, I don't know how Jim feels about that, but, how about, let's start off, how about early in the morning? Would people be able to do something, say like 9 o'clock in the morning or something like that?
I wouldn't be able to, but I was just
okay.
asking Connie about lunchtime. Maybe, I personally can probably take a lunch. Just to
Right. How about, and then John, I know John does a lot of traveling, so, John Gasky, so I don't know if he would be.
Yeah, for me, it's just kind of hit or miss if it's going to be during the day.
Of course, yeah, of course, sometimes what we do is we try to get a majority of people out there, and it's just for the planning board members and with the engineer of the project, and so sometimes if everybody can't get there at the same time, then we might have to schedule, you know, maybe Jim could go out or somebody could go out that did the first site visit and take the member that missed the first visit, you know, around to see, you know, the project. So sometimes we've done something like that. But,
I'm pretty flexible.
so, okay, so you're flexible. What was that?
In the morning, it's fine with me.
In the morning? Could you do something at noontime?
I could do something at noon.
Oh, okay.
You can.
I can take a lunch at noon.
Yeah.
I can get that way.
Okay.
Not a problem.
All right, so Kevin said he could do it, and Connie said that he could do it. I'm open to any time.
Pretty much open to.
And Ellen, okay. And then, we could set a time, and then, if John,
I could go
yeah.
out with John at some point.
Yeah.
And we could figure out a time to go out together.
Yeah. Yeah, all right,
Check the site.
all right. So, okay, so we've set a time, say like around noontime, now we pick the day. After this meeting, I'm gonna go home and not go out till Thanksgiving. So, I'm not gonna do anything till after Thanksgiving. I'm gonna quarantine. So, how about, see, our next meeting will be December 9th for this, if we continue. How about the first week in December? What's a good day for you, Jim? Would the first week of December? What does your schedule look like?
I'll work around everybody else.
All right. Is say like Tuesday, the 1st of December? Would that be a good day for everybody to meet at noontime at this? All right. Kevin?
I don't have anything, so I can do that.
Okay, great. And Ellen? Okay, December 1st at noontime. And then, so, what we'll do is we'll come up with an address where we could meet with you people out in the field, so someplace where we could park our cars and meet you so that we could, do a walk out there.
Yeah, normally we can,
Okay.
How do you get into the office? Off of, so that's 58? Or is that Tremont Street? Oh, there is. Oh, so is this on the forest? Almost? Just about in the forest? I'm trying to think if this before or not.
So if you could come up with an address, for us to, so that we could, I don't do anything without a GPS, I gotta plug it in. So if you, give me, and that's the best thing, so if you could.
Absolutely.
And then Jim could email us an address, something that we could get us in the area. Anyway, that would be good. All right, so we've scheduled a site walk for December 1st at noon. And so now I'll entertain a motion to continue this hearing on December 9th.
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing to December 9th. For, should I say Carver?
Carver, yep.
Ellen seconded.
So that Kevin made the motion and Ellen second. And further discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Starting to my right.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Mr. Robinson says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye.
Ellen Sordillo, aye.
All right. So,
John Gasky says aye.
oh, and John, I'm sorry, John. You're much smaller tonight than you usually are. Yeah, okay, so, yeah.
Modern technology.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so, if you can arrange, you can talk to Jim and decide, when we go out there, I don't know if there's a way to mark where the fields are, or maybe they're delineated by the roads that are around the bogs. If we could have an idea of where these things are. I mean, sometimes we've had them kind of like the corners staked out in the field, and then sometimes just the bog roads, or but if you could just kind of mark them out so we know roughly where they are.
You probably wouldn't be able to do the one that's excavating sand out of it though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because we'll have 3 separate fields to look at, and then we'll kind of want to walk around these fields and then kind of see what we can see, from these points. So we have to have a rough approximation of where these arrays are. Okay.
The southern one is really kind of dead and dying. The one in the middle is kind of wide open. This one kind of goes up the hill over there. This one is
All right. Is there anything else that any of the board members would like to see out there?
Refreshments in the office.
Well, who knows? Hopefully you won't be trudging through snow at that time, but we'll see. You never know with all the crazy things that have been going on. All right, so we'll see you at the site walk and then our next hearing on December 9th.
Great.
So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. Just one question before I go. Do you anticipate the December 9th meeting to happen in person as well as online? as of
We'll-
this point. I guess
Well,
you can't really predict.
We'll
the
try.
future, but- Okay.
Didn't realize we had a technology challenge.
No problem. Okay, yeah, just so I can anticipate with holiday travel.
Sure. Okay, thank you. All right, so, the next we have minor modification, and this is Clearway Energy on 59 Federal Road, and it's map 131-1-1, and also 1-2 and 1-3 and 5-0. And this is for discussion and possible vote.
Good evening. Sarah Stearns from Beals and Thomas. With me is Dean Smith from Borrego Solar. We also have one or two members online of the development team from Clearway Energy. I think Anna and Jen, possibly Zach are on Zoom. Jim?
I got Zach.
Okay. And if the board will recall that this is a project that we discussed for a different reason about a month ago under a separate minor modification. Tonight, we're here with our application for a minor modification, really more as a project update. As we mentioned the last time we spoke with the board, this project was originally permitted in 2016. So over the past 4 years, some site work had begun, but primarily the site had been cleared and graded, and the sand from a portion of the site had been used on the landowner's agricultural properties, the landowner's 80 acres. Now that the building permit process is about to begin or has just begun, the team of Borrego and Clearway has really taken a refreshed look at the site and wanted to really update the board and the plan set with the current existing grades. They are different in some areas than they were back in 2016 when we originally permitted the project, just due to the use of the sand from the site. So what we've done is supplied the town as well as the peer reviewer with an updated existing conditions plan. Went through the grading, adjusted it in a portion of the northern part of the site to maintain the solar array. Dean is the civil engineer on the project, so he went through the original stormwater report and the analysis, confirmed that the basins and all the stormwater management components are still relevant related to the existing conditions. And Dean and Andy Glines from Fuss and O'Neill talked that through. Andy took a look at all the plans and the stormwater memo and provided us and the town with a memo agreeing that, you know, the stormwater management components are still appropriate for the site despite the grade change in a portion of the site. So all in all, it's still the same project, but we really just wanted to have updated plans of record with the town so that, you know, when the building permitting process happens, construction starts, and then when we go to do the as-built of the project, everything is related to the correct plan. So we really just kind of conservatively wanted to make sure that everything was reflective of the current site conditions, not necessarily the site conditions from 2016. So that's really the long and short of it. Is, you know, I brought the original layout. It still has the same footprint. It still has the same stormwater basins, roadway network, et cetera. Everything footprint-wise is exactly the same. So Dean can certainly talk details if you have specific questions related to the layout and the stormwater management. Again, I'm just gonna take that off for 1 second. It's really hard to like project your voice with this mask. So anyway, so we got a brief memo from Andy earlier today, and they had gone back and forth with a couple of additional tweaks to the plan. But Fuss and O'Neill is satisfied with the update. And again, it's important to the development team to have everything updated with the current existing conditions. So that's really why we're here. We're certainly happy to answer questions that the board may have. Dean has a couple of plans that we can leave with you, Jim, for your file. And we emailed the PDFs to Jim and to Fuss and O'Neill as well, so.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Just information for the planning board is that once we approve these projects and then the project is constructed, it's supposed to do an as-built plan when everything is finished. And the purpose of the as-built plan is to make sure that everything was placed in the right locations, that the field didn't get any bigger or smaller, or if the field didn't go off into another area where it wasn't supposed to go. So, in this particular thing, I had looked at this with Jim and Sarah last week, and they just wanted to do this because it was just a grade change in one area of the solar panel field. So it didn't make the solar panel field any bigger. It didn't, actually they lowered it some. So there was a benefit from the street. I don't think you could see the solar panels anyway, but it made it lower so that you wouldn't see, if you could, the solar panels. So, so the reason they came before us was just to, so once they construct this thing, it'll look like what had been brought to the planning board. So that's the reason that we're here tonight. Nothing, I couldn't see anything major other than some excavation being done and the panels being put in that area. And then we did have Fuss and O'Neill take a look at it to make sure that they approved everything. So I think Jim and I were happy, didn't, just thought that this was just a minor modification.
Yeah, and so we have the memos from Fuss and O'Neill. Added that tonight to everyone's packet. And then I do have kind of a decision thing just to firm it up.
Oh, you have a decision for tonight for this minor modification. Okay. All right, so,
So this is not an as-built, but this is a being as-built with the exception of a minor elevation change.
It's the same as what we talked about 4 years ago. Me too, anyway. Other than the elevation on the northern part of the site. And, it's been so long. This was, the solar construction was delayed on this project for a number of reasons, primarily due to utility study. So Makepeace was using the material as they could for their bogs all down in that area. And I should have started just to remind the board the location of this, 59 Federal. It's in the southern part of town, directly across the street from the Ocean Spray receiving plant. So just for mental picture. And yes, the solar field is set back off of the road with an existing wooded buffer along Federal Road.
Yeah, so the way Sarah explained it to Jim and I is that there's no solar panels that have been installed there, but it's taken so long to get a permitting or whatever.
Yeah, the Eversource conducts a study in various regions with these projects in mind. And I know many of the projects that I've been involved in, it has taken years in some cases for that study to be concluded. So, even though we go through our local, state, and federal permitting and go on to work with DOER for, the next phase of permitting under the SMART program, we can still then have to wait until all of those, additional studies are completed. So, and sometimes that can take an extended amount of time. So, Right, so these are just updated permit plans. So these plans would be what now goes in the file, and once the project is constructed and an as-built, is undertaken, and then that can be compared with the plan in the filing cabinet, we want those to match, so. It's really just a project update, but.
I actually have a question that's not necessarily part of that, but
Okay.
as far as the SMART program works, now, are you subject to a deadline based on their study, or is their study part of getting it in prior to that? It's just a question, not to do with the project. Just wondering, for us, for down the future, you know what I mean, when we're supposed to help with
Well, this one's been around for a long time, so I'm not sure that it falls under the SMART program. If Zach is on, he could certainly answer that question in a lot of detail.
Zach is on.
That's correct too, probably.
I'm just wondering if, like, you get to be grandfathered in based on their study.
Yeah, they lock in the incentive once we get our local permitting
Okay,
completed. So that, and then the original
Got it.
Interconnection study locks in the incentive.
You want an answer from Zach?
Oh, I'd love to talk to Zach, but I got what I needed to hear.
Okay, sorry, Zach.
No worries, late 2021, we've got to be done by late 2021, that's why we're starting now, and off we go.
Okay. Yeah, so what happened here is they cut the trees down and they stumped it, and then they said, well, we've been waiting here for so long, we're gonna use some of this sand here, we're gonna excavate that out.
Recycling.
Yeah, yeah, so that's why this change came about. If it had happened, I guess, immediately, they wouldn't have excavated the sand out for their own use, but they since it's been sitting there for years, so they said, hey, we're gonna take that sand out of there. So that's what happened.
Sand for the cranberry growers is worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. So, are there any other questions?
What was the level of grade change?
It's variable. What did you say?
It's through the south part of the site, it's largely the same. There's a northern area where they were taking sand materials out, and it varies up to 20 to 30 feet in some cases. They took quite a bit of material out. So that was the reason that we needed to update our plan to accommodate the existing grades that are out there.
And with 20 to 30 feet? Lower than?
Lower, yeah, lower.
And what was the original grade?
I'll have to look at the plan to tell you what the original grade was. On the low end of the north side where the water management is, it's 88 feet now, and it was 20 feet higher than that on the original plan. But this whole site basically sits in a bowl anyway, so it's just a little lower. And with the sandy soils, the stormwater runoff collects in those basins and mostly infiltrates into the ground. So we reran the hydrologic models to prove that we're not, putting stormwater off onto the basin area. And used the same assumptions that were in the original calculation, and they're within the same state guidelines.
That was my only question.
You all set? Okay. Anything else by any of the other board members? All right, okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minor modification for Clearway Energy on 59 Federal Road.
I'll make a motion to approve the request for minor modification at 59 Federal Road.
I'll second that, Connie Shea.
Okay, so Kevin made the original motion, Connie Shea, second. Further discussion? Seeing none, we'll roll call vote. And, yeah, this one starts with Connie and then
Mr. Shea says aye.
Mr. Robinson says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye. All right, and,
John Gasky says aye.
and John Gasky says aye, okay. All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, next we have,
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
okay, so you have the decision here,
Yeah,
is that for us, can we sign that tonight, or?
Yep,
Okay.
so, who do we have, 4 votes or 5 votes?
So we have
five.
John, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So it'll be five
Yep.
votes. So we'll sign it so nobody has to come back at night to sign it. All right, so the next, I think this is one of the last items we have tonight is, and I'll let Jim talk about this. We have a discussion about the Lyndhia's Path neighbors' concerns. And if you could start this and give us a little history on this, Jim?
Sure, so I was contacted last, so kind of going back, we had gone out about 2 weeks ago with Andy Grimes, John Wood, our DPW director, and met with Mike Fascinetti out in the field, kind of discussing paving, and they wanted to kind of have Andy do a kind of a inspection. So one of the things they're doing is they want to get a lot release for lot 4, actually lot 6 is the final lot. And so when the original estimate came in, it was kind of high, so Karen Cash, who's the owner of the development, wanted to try to get as many things off the checklist as possible. So then they got to a point where they were talking about trying to get paving done. And so we kind of left it, and then last Friday got some calls from neighbors about activity going on at the site. And so I went up on Monday and I talked to 2 of the individuals about their concerns. Some had to do with issues with the houses themselves. They said, well, we can't deal with that. But we can try to clear up to find out more about where the, part of it has to do with the sidewalk that's going in. So apparently on Friday, the developer went out and kind of carved out, the pathway around the loop of the subdivision to put the driveway in. During that process, some people had installed sprinklers on the lawn, not knowing that that was going to be a sidewalk in the future. And then there was some other kind of concerns about how far does the sidewalk go. And so when I was out there, then was trying to reach out to both John and Andy, and we finally circled around and found out that the sidewalk does end at kind of midpoint in front of someone's property, but that was what was part of the approved plan from 5 years ago. But they said, well, there's an opportunity to come into the planning board, and any other concerns you have about the site, they can come in and speak to the board about, and then at some point in the future, Cimarron has to come back to us, anyways, for the final lot release, dealing with the roadway paving, dealing with the sidewalks, etc. And there's some other areas where they, we're out in the field with John, myself, and Andy Glines. There's talk about, maybe there's some additional modifications that might have to be made. But we're waiting for information from the developer to let us know what of any modifications they might need to adjust the sidewalk. And John Wu was kind of agreeable because part of the plan was to have the edge of the road, Cape Cod berm, about a 2-foot grass area, and then a 4-foot sidewalk. And the concern was that, from John's perspective, when we're following the winter months, because this is all going to become town maintained roadway, it may be better off not having the grassy strip between the sidewalk and the edge of the pavement. But those things have to come back to the board in order to be finalized, but we were having those initial discussions.
All right, I see there are some people left out there. Does anybody have anything that they would like to say, or did you just come to see what? Yeah, if you could just come down and sit in the chair, give us your name and address, please.
Hi, my name's Anthony. I live at 2 Limbias Path, so my house is the last house that was built.
What was your last name?
I'm Balamotis.
Okay.
So, when we looked at the lot, Mr. Pacini and Bridgestone Development stated that the whole cul-de-sac was gonna have a walkway lined with trees. So now, when I go out there the other day, Friday, I see construction people working and ripping up the sidewalk that's on the other side. So I'm figuring I'm gonna come home to a nice sidewalk and street paving. He literally ripped up my lawn, like a third of my property. Well, it's the sidewalk, but it doesn't make sense when you have a beautiful home like that in a whole cul-de-sac, that a sidewalk that stops on the opposite side of High Street, goes all the way around the cul-de-sac, and stops a third of the way up to my property when I have a gorgeous home that was just built there. Second, the irrigation to the home came with the cost of the house. So there are 3 spigots that are between the street and the sidewalk. So literally, they're gonna pave over these spigots without moving them or whatnot. So whenever this is all done, I'm gonna have to have that fixed. So it's already told by my lawn people that those 3 spigots will have to be moved. Now, this is the second time that Mr. Pacini has ripped up my lawn and damaged my property and my driveway. So our concern is the street isn't paved. There's a big divot when you come into High Street onto our street that you could easily, there's a pipe, it must be a water pipe or something that's kind of, you could easily get a flat tire if you hit it wrong. And then, you have a lot across the street that's on hold apparently, that has tree lumbers, has pallets, gravel, trash. Aesthetically, it's not looking good for a new neighborhood, especially if you're trying to sell a house or build a home there. There's major drainage concern on both sides of the street. The Matt's house and his driveway, from Miguel's property. There are drainage things that are obviously clogged from debris, rocks that need to be cleaned out, and the water just pours and sits in soak.
Well, these are things that are, all the stuff that you're talking about will be something, except for your lawn sprinklers, I don't.
No, right, I
That's
mean,
something that we don't, the planning board doesn't.
I'll address that with Mr.
Yeah,
Pacini.
yeah, but anything that was on the plan should be done per plan, or they have to come to us for a modification. So,
I'm in favor of modification, because that does not make sense to end the sidewalk there.
Well-
Looks, excuse my language, it looks totally stupid. In front of my home.
I mean, if that's what's on the, if that's what's on the.
What's the address, what's the location that we're actually looking at here?
It's Lindia's Path, it's number 2, where the sidewalk ends, like a third of the way up my property.
Jim, if you could translate for me?
Oh, so this is John Gasky?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so this is Limbia's Path, subdivision under construction. We're getting down to the final lot, and what remains to be done is the road needs to be paved. There's a sidewalk that goes around the cul-de-sac, but according to the approved plans, it stops kind of 1/3 up Mr. Bellamodis' property, and it doesn't continue all the way up to the top of High Street. But unfortunately, that was something that was approved by the planning board years ago, so it could be a point of negotiation when considering other modifications to the site. But that's kind of the concern, is that, it's kind of maybe also the treatment, how things may have been presented ahead of time and not presented ahead of time, communicated to the residents. But that's kind of the situation. So when they were, what the term is, grinding out the pathway for the sidewalk and compacting it, they kind of damaged or isolated some sprinkler heads that were part of number 2 Nimbia's Path. And so the residents there were concerned, about the damage to their sprinkler system. As well as, the fact that the sidewalk does not continue all the way up to High Street.
If I understand correctly, you mean you would be in favor of a minor modification given the fact that you came together as a group and were not interested in the sidewalk continuing?
Would either have it, I'm in favor of it continuing up to High Street, and don't even put it in front of my home at all, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to have 20 feet of sidewalk.
We have to take a look at the plan. I don't.
Well, I do have a copy of.
Yeah. The thing is that, you're talking about drainage issues and stuff like that. That'll all be looked at before it has to be looked at by the town, the engineers, by DPW, make sure that everything is cleaned out and works properly before they can get the release on the last lot. And so, any road concerns.
So when we were out in the field, that was part of the discussion, because there was on
Bruce,
both sides.
I totally understand that.
Yeah.
I don't have any confidence in Mr. Pacini and his company anymore, just with my personal stuff that I have to deal with in my home. And when he's telling us, well, this should have been done a long time ago, the street was gonna be done, the sidewalk, and he purposely delays, and whatever the reasons are. So I don't have any confidence in him, so I'm hoping the town of Carver will step in.
Okay, well, we can talk to them and see, we tried to get them here tonight to discuss this, but in the end, the town still has to release that last slot, so he has to do, as what's on the plan he has to do. Now, if you have any further discussions with him about, redesigning the sidewalk or something like that, I'd have to take a look at the plan on that, but, the town still has that lot, so, yeah.
So some of the discussions we were having were, I mentioned the fact of having the sidewalk abut directly to the Cape Cod berm and not have that 2-foot strip.
Yep.
Which might be a better, so maybe as an exchange for that, it could be the planning board bargain with the developer to say, well, can you extend the sidewalk all the way up to High Street?
And how far, you said it was like 20 feet?
I think it might be a little bit longer than that, so it'd probably be another.
The extension?
50? Yeah, if you
Yeah,
extend
the
it.
extension's longer than what's actually paved out. It looks like it's 5 feet wide anyway, the sidewalk, that he has paved out.
Supposed to be
Are
4
you the
foot
first
wide.
house in on the right then?
On the
And
left,
All right, we can discuss that with them, see what we can do for you.
We don't put it in at all. Not a suggestion, either all the way up or don't put it in front of any of my property.
Right.
So it just doesn't look nice.
All right, well, we can take a look at that, and can we get in touch with them and talk to them about that?
Yeah, I think we intended to have additional discussions. I think they were trying to get the paving done but I think they may have missed the deadline, for the asphalt plant.
Oh, the close, they probably closed by now, huh?
Yeah.
So they'd have to do any further paving in the springtime.
Right, and then there's the bioretention basin in the center. They did clean out all the old weeds out of there, just scraped all up, but they have some plantings that they have to do to solidify that. If I have to clean out the catch basins, because there's a lot of mud and filled up.
Which is a normal thing that we see on new subdivisions. They have to, at the end of the time of construction, they have to go and clean
That's the whole
things up.
purpose of holding the lot.
Yeah, right.
So that they are, accountable to finish what they have down on paper. And so if I understand correctly, the only thing that we can really address would be the sidewalk, and as Jim mentioned, we would either agree to losing the grass and having the sidewalk continue, or the problem is it's going to fall on somebody having to pay for it to be re-engineered. So.
Now, one of the things that Andy Grimes mentioned, or he's our engineer from Preston O'Neill, his thought was you have the undeveloped lot across the street where, the sidewalk would come around, and maybe you flip it, because in order to get into that lot, if they had paved it, then they would have equipment going up and down on top of that sidewalk. So maybe instead of developing the sidewalk on that side, you develop it on the opposite side, and then you leave the frontage for lot number 6 without the sidewalk. There's an alternative, but.
There is a 2-foot walkway there, all the way down.
And what's your name?
Number 4, so you're the second house on the left? Okay. Yep, the big, yep. And then next to you is your neighbor at the lot 5. And then you're the gentleman from the house that's on High Street, is that correct? Yeah, 17 High Street? Yep. Right. And here's the...
Thank you, guys.
Okay. All right. Thank you. If anybody else has anything to say, please step up and give us your name and address, please. And we can listen to these things and we can see what we can do as we're coming down to the completion of this subdivision.
My name's Cliff Stanley. I live at 17 High Street. I've been going through 5 years of hell with this lot, this place next door. Anywhere from before 7 o'clock in the morning, trucks dumping sand from the get-go to everything, from trees falling on my property for years, crushing my garage, fence, damaging my property. There's still 2 trees up in the worst spot of the whole area that we wanted taken down years ago that could fall on my house and Miguel's. There's 2 of them there. Biggest issue of trees were those 2. They took all the other ones on that first lot that isn't built yet to make that lot look better to build, and left the 2 trees that were probably the worst out of all of them. Didn't take them down.
I believe that was an issue years ago where they clear cut where they weren't supposed to.
Oh yeah, they've cut, right, there was a 15-foot buffer on both sides of that whole area for both abutters, which they cut right into my property, all the way down the line. They were putting a well, Miguel's well was going in on my property, right on my property line, and I went up and told the well driller, I go, you're putting it right on my property line. Isn't there a some type of footage, you have to be off my property, put a well or someone else's well in. He was at the wrong state. None of these people the contractors have hired, both of them, know where the property lines are. There's a property line, there's an offset property line that the town has on that part of growth that's my property between that unbuilt land and my property. It's a cement block with a metal pipe and a flag. It shows the offset from the road in for the town property. Both of contractors thought that was the corner marker of the property. There's a corner marker in the ground where I put a stake right near it. I put probably 6 of them up in 5 years. They've been run over by machines, they've been buried, I've had to dig it out again. Recently, I put another couple ones down the line because I have a pie shape, giant frontage in my lot. And it goes down to a small, it's like a pizza slice. I put a couple markers along my property line now because I know they're trying to sell that postage stamp and put a giant house in it. I can't see where they have any backyard or front yard, especially if you're putting a sidewalk there. How much footage can you have off of either the front or the back of the house? But anyway, the trees were an issue. We sent a letter. Did all these guys, all your
I have it,
get the letter?
I have the email you sent, I don't have, well, the other one were letters that were sent to, written by Stephen Cole.
Okay,
But I can get a package to everybody.
Stephen Cole probably helped me out the most out of anyone in the town hall. He's a great guy. He kept me notified of everything going on. After the second year after the cuts, the first year one tree fell, hit my garage, my standalone garage. The next year, 1,100-foot pine trees fell on my property. One crushing, opening up the roof of my garage and wiping out a $8,000 fence along the back that I keep my dogs in contained. That's when Stephen wrote up a thing about getting all the big trees down and other things, which I can't believe that the two, like I talked about, the two that are the worst, and Miguel and I have talked about this, he wanted to just have them cut down one time, because they're the worst. They're the two that would do the most damage on 2 houses, that it's not on either property, either mine or his. He said, oh, they ran out of time, they're coming back soon, and they're gonna take those other 2 down.
Okay, so we can talk to him about that, I mean.
4 days ago, just like all the other time when you watch the weather and they say it's gonna be 50, 60 mile an hour winds, I don't sleep that night. I've woken up and seen a battle zone in my backyard, so I can't sleep nights like that, and it's been going on for years now.
All right, well, yeah, I guess.
Now there's a berm.
We'll look at that.
And Aphrodite's supposedly going up. With that lot, the way it is, you need a fence. Those aren't gonna cut it, they're just not. But one other thing I want to say, the stake I put right at the marker that's buried up front, I put a stake in there, there's one in there now with orange painted. That John, who lives in the newest house, came over to my house. I've never met him before. He came over, introduced himself the other day to me. He said, the contractor walked up to that stake, pulled it out of the ground and threw it in the ground. Probably to sell the property, it's gonna look like there's more acreage up in the front there, and actually even down the line. I mean, it's crazy. There should be 15 more feet of trees, the small hardwood trees, along that thing. When originally I was here, that the first couple meetings, they put that 15-foot buffer, no cut buffer in. That was gone the very first time tree guys got down there. They cut that all out. They were even excavating on my property there, right up front by the road, because they didn't know that my land was so wide. But I just don't need Mike. I don't need Mike pulling up stakes that I have marked my property to protect it. I mean, and I've showed them the marker that's buried, the one with the seal on it. I've showed them it many times, and they just...
Well, that's the road marker, right?
Don't know. The road mark is 15, 18 feet towards my into my property. I put it, this is one, is right near the fire hydrant, I'd say 8 feet away from the fire hydrant, which is right at the corner of the road, up there, that fire hydrant that doesn't
All right, we'll talk to the builder. Like I said, there's still work to be done there, and they have to finish it up.
Please, I'd suggest all you guys, I sent him a whole bunch of paperwork from the years that have been going.
Yeah.
Read it all up. It explains everything that I've been going through.
Yeah.
First time I came to the very first meeting, the grade was never supposed to change of that property. I stand on the edge of my property where they're filling in, and it's 4 feet higher, right at that point. Now, everything they pulled out of the mosquito home in the middle of the cul-de-sac, he scooped it up with his machine, brought it right over and dumped it next to my property, right in the corner. All that stuff. I don't know if he was supposed to put it there. I mean, it's just all crap, stinky crap. He dumped it. I mean, so, just things that happen. I was told by my brother-in-law, who's a licensed surveyor, it's your property, you better keep your eye out what's going on, because they don't care about you.
We've had a long history of things that kind of went wrong there. Because
I've
we've had a couple of owners there, a couple of builders there, and one man passed away, and so it seems like a lot of work was done there without a lot of surveying. And that's what I did most of my lifetime, but usually you stake a well, you stake a foundation. You stake the property line so that things are
marked out. And that's the beginning of the problem.
And that wasn't done, and continually wasn't done.
And I try to keep my cool and be quiet and be, not make any waves. But that doesn't, squeaky wheel gets the grease, obviously.
Well, so we'll take a look at your concerns, of what all you gentlemen told us tonight, and then we'll take a look at what you sent Jim, and then, we'll discuss that with the builder, and, because like Jim said, they were looking at it now, so.
But the end all was pulling the stake out the other week.
Yeah, you're not supposed to do that,
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, all right.
I appreciate it.
And
I'd like it if Jim could give you the paperwork so you guys could all check out everything. My wife wrote a note about it, about what we've been expecting for years now and what's been happening.
Okay.
It was all reported at different times when I was at different meetings. She won't talk in public. So I have to. But I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, any more comments before we end the meeting?
So I do have copies of the decisions for this.
Okay.
and then kind of small plans, so,
We'll have to take a look at that. We'll have you do a final walk, anyway, so we'll see what's been done and what hasn't been done out there.
we can.
All right.
See what people are, well, if they want it now, we can do it.
All right, other, business, planning board member notes. I'll start off, and I just wish everybody here a happy Thanksgiving and a safe Thanksgiving. Want everybody to be healthy. We can't have any sick planning board members. We got too much to do.
Well, we're lucky to have an alternate.
So hopefully everybody will have a good Thanksgiving under the circumstances. Anybody else, any other planning board member have anything that they'd like to say? Hearing none, seeing none. Planner, director notes.
So I saw Jack Williams in the office the other day. He told me he sold his subdivision, Gilbert Estates, to Bob Gosselin, and so he purchased the whole thing, and he'll be developing the houses in that subdivision. And that, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, so, we did our discussion of Olympia's Path. We have the minutes of 10/13/2020. Do we have that in the package? Did anybody look at those?
I didn't get it.
Are we not doing anything with Cape Lake Cannabis?
That's December 9th.
That's at our next meeting.
That was postponed though.
No, it's scheduled for December 9th. That was the date. So they were originally proposing to apply earlier, but then they had some delays, and so it fell on December 9th as the date that they'll be coming in to see us.
Okay.
Do you want to maybe table the minutes until our next meeting? If that's all right with everybody?
I wasn't here.
I will make a motion to,
Works for me.
Okay, so we'll table the minutes.
table the minutes till next meeting.
Okay. So a motion, we hear a second?
Second.
So a motion and a second to table the minutes of 10/13/2020. Those in favor?
Cornelia Shea says aye.
Kevin?
I was.
John Gasky says aye.
Okay, John Gasky says aye. Bruce Mackey says aye. Okay. And, okay, and Kevin,
Kevin abstained?
abstained, yeah.
Okay.
So our next meeting date is December 9th, and that will be, so we'll hear more about the solar project that we just heard tonight, and we will be doing the cannabis retail store in South Carver.
And we have the site visit on the first, correct?
Yes.
Tentatively.
Yeah, for the solar project, yeah. All right, entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
So a motion by Mr. Shea, seconded by Kevin Robinson. Those in favor, roll call.
Mr. Shea says aye.
Mr. Robinson says aye.
Bruce Mackey, aye. Okay,
John Gasky aye.
and John Gasky, aye. All right, thank you, everybody, for being here tonight, and we'll see you December 9th.